Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 81 of Teaching Tales, the podcast totally devoted to sharing stories from the world of education, stories that I hope and pray will encourage and inspire you as you go about the daily grind, that life-changing work of impacting your students. I am Brent Coley, an elementary principal in beautiful Southern California. I'm getting ready to embark on my 8th year as a principal. Before being an admin, I taught 4th and 5th grade for 15 years. And if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that typically I have a guest on, maybe even a couple of guests, and we share stories from our experiences related to a particular topic. In this episode, it's just me. I am flying solo, and this episode was born out of a blog post that I recently wrote and published. And in the days since I have published it, it's still been on my mind, and I've had some additional thoughts about kind of the topic. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do an episode of the podcast on this, kind of the audio version of the blog post, but then add in some additional stories, some additional thoughts and reflections that I've had since I published it. So if you've looked at this episode of the podcast, it's called "What's Your Green Sauce?" You may be like, what? What's your green sauce? What the heck does that mean? Well, the blog post was called "Make Your Classroom More Like El Pollo Loco." So let me just kind of talk about what I wrote and share my thoughts. So most people, they've got a favorite restaurant. As you're listening here, you probably have a favorite restaurant. And if I asked 20 different people to identify their favorite, I may get 20 different answers. Now, they may name a fine steakhouse like Ruth's Chris or Morton, something like that. Sushi fans, you may give me the name of the local sushi restaurant that serves up this Japanese delicacy. If I were to ask a small child, I may get McDonald's or Little Caesars as their favorite, because to each his own, right? So what about me? Brent, what's your favorite restaurant? Well, if you haven't already guessed by the title of this, my favorite, believe it or not, is El Pollo Loco. That's right, El Pollo Loco. And this wasn't in the blog post, but I do need to kind of put it out there that when I take my wife on a date, we don't go to El Pollo Loco, okay? I still enjoy the nicer restaurants. I enjoy a Ruth's Chris steak. I enjoy nice restaurants. But if it's just me and I had to choose, I would say El Pollo Loco is my favorite. Out of all the restaurants I could choose from, El Pollo Loco. I love this restaurant, ladies and gentlemen. It's affordable. It's relatively healthy when you compare it to other fast food joints that only serve up burgers and fries. It doesn't hurt that there's a location only a mile from my school, and I'm not ashamed to say that I order there multiple times a week. And I'm a creature of habit. I get the same thing every time. A $5 Pollo Bowl combo with flour tortillas and a large tropical iced tea. My mouth is watering just thinking about this, okay? But it's not the taste of the food that keeps me coming back. Though I do enjoy the combination of chicken, beans, and rice and a little pico de gallo and some onions, okay? Because let's be honest, it's El Pollo Loco, okay? There are more flavorful things out there. So it's not the taste of the food that keeps me coming back. It's not the value either, though being able to fill my stomach for less than $6 is something my wife and I, in our budget, we really enjoy. It's not the comfortable booze that are in the restaurant that I used to be able to enjoy before COVID shut everything down and I'm not able to eat inside the restaurant anymore. So you may be asking, why, Brent? Why El Pollo Loco? What is it that keeps pulling me back to this restaurant, like the Millennium Falcon caught in the Death Star's tractor beam? Star Wars fans out there, you're welcome for the reference. Okay, what is it? It's the avocado salsa, what I affectionately call green sauce. I absolutely love this stuff, okay? Seriously, I can't get enough. It's flavorful with just the right amount of kick. It's spicy, but not too spicy. I could drink this stuff like water, which I actually did one time to win a bet several years ago, but that's another story. I love smothering every bite in this liquid slice of heaven. If I go to the drive-thru and then I get back to school, my office, and I discover that they forgot to put my green sauce in the bag, my mood turns grumpy. The birds stop singing, the clouds roll in, and the day just seems darker. The meal just isn't the same. See, ladies and gentlemen, I go to El Pollo Loco for the avocado salsa. I go for the green sauce. If the restaurant stopped serving it, I can honestly say I wouldn't eat there as frequently as I do. And if I stop to think about it, I don't even know if I'd go there at all. It's that important to me. And it's salsa, for crying out loud. It's a side dish. No, it's not even a side dish. A condiment. It's a condiment. Something extra the restaurant gives away for free, but it's what keeps me coming back over and over and over. So, let's tie this into education, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, my question to you is this. What's your green sauce? What is that extra something that keeps your students wanting to come back to your classroom, to your school? What is it that, figuratively speaking, makes their mouths water when they think about getting to spend time with you? I go to El Pollo Loco for the green sauce, okay? For that something extra. What is it that your students look forward to? What is that something extra you give away for free that keeps them coming back? Now, this question, what's your green sauce? This focuses on the extra, but I want to pause for a second and be perfectly clear. The main dishes we serve in our classrooms, those lessons in reading, writing, math, or whatever subject it is you teach, okay, those are important, like really, really important. Our pedagogy has to be good. The lessons have to be good. It's imperative that we provide our students with rigorous opportunities for learning, that we fill their, air quotes here, stomachs with nutritious food, okay? But my point is this, and this is it. The main dish may not be what gets your students up in the morning. Let me say that again. The main dish, that lesson that you've prepared, that may not be what gets your students up in the morning. It may be that something extra you provide, that cherry on top. It may be the green sauce. Again, your lessons are important, but that extra something is important too. I wouldn't go to Pollo if they didn't have green sauce. Okay? So again, I'm going to ask you, what is your green sauce? Let me give you some examples of what it could be. It may be your smiling face that greets students each day when they enter your classroom or their school. It may be the high five, fist bump, or hug at the door each morning. You know, those things that right now, if you're listening to this amidst the pandemic, those things that we're not allowed to do right now. But outside of COVID, it may be those things, the smile, the high five, the fist bump, that extra something. It may be a smelly sticker that you put on your students' exams when they do well. Seriously, that's right. A smelly sticker may be making your student's day, may be what he or she is looking forward to. And for those of you who teach the upper grades, I'm talking to you too. For those of you who teach in middle and high school, this matters to them too. A smelly sticker could be the green sauce for you guys too. Maybe it's the instrumental music you play in the background as students are working. Or maybe it's the Spotify playlist you let your students share with you that you have playing in the morning when students enter your classroom. Guys, gals, maybe it's the corny dad jokes you tell every day. You know, the ones that your students, they outwardly roll their eyes, but inwardly they look forward to hearing. And if you forgot to tell it one day, they're going to remind you, oh, what's your dad joke today? Those things. Maybe it's the Instagram account you created where you post cool stuff that's taking place in your classroom because kids are on Instagram. Or maybe you're a TikTok teacher Hey, maybe you're making those funny videos on TikTok and you are now the cool teacher in the eyes of your students. Those are just some examples. And in the grand scheme of things, these are all actions or gestures that could be considered small. These may not be the things that your professors talked about when you were in your teaching credential program. But what I want to communicate to you is that doesn't mean that things like this can't and don't make a big difference in the lives of those we serve. We don't want to ever underestimate the power of those little things, because more often than we think, it's that little something extra, that green sauce that our students are thirsting for and what keeps them wanting to come back for more. What's your green sauce? Now, I was thinking about this more, and I was thinking back to when I was in the classroom. When I taught fifth grade, it was the early 2000s. That's when the movies, the Lord of the Rings movies came out. You may remember that. And confession here, no, not a confession, because I'm proud of it. I'm a nerd, okay? I love that genre. I'm a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings. I mean, so when those movies were coming out, I had 3 years, a different movie to look forward to. Oh my gosh, it was great for my wife too, because at Christmas each year, she was set for Christmas gifts, because anything that had Lord of the Rings, she could get that for me, and she was all good. So I had bobbleheads, action figures, those types of things that I would bring into my classroom, put them on my desk, pin them on the walls. And what this started doing, it showed my students, hey, this is something Mr. Coley's interested in. It wasn't part of the California state standards. It wasn't part of the curriculum. It was part of me. It was something extra, that cherry on top. And you know what started happening? If I put a new one up, kids would notice. Kids started bringing me in action figures as gifts. And I even had a student and his dad came in with one of those life-size cutouts from one of the movies, those cardboard cutouts you would see in the theater. He actually got it from Barnes & Noble. That was an advertisement there. The dad told me that the student, his son, went up to the manager, asked to speak to the Barnes & Noble manager, and said, hey, my teacher loves Lord of the Rings. When you're done with this, could I have it? Because I would love to give it to him so he could put it in his classroom. That was my green sauce, ladies and gentlemen. It had nothing to do with the lessons I was teaching, but it was something extra that my students, that made them want to come and made the environment something a little less sterile. My daughter, one of her fifth grade teachers, when they would rotate for her fifth grade year, her teacher was a huge SpongeBob fan. Huge SpongeBob fan. Mrs. Eskridge, if you're listening to this, it made a difference with Megan, okay? And she wasn't even a huge SpongeBob fan, but that's what she came home talking about, how Mrs. Eskridge loved SpongeBob, how she decorated her classroom with SpongeBob memorabilia, things like that. And ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to start this year, if you're listening to this in early August of 2020, we're getting ready to start in a virtual environment, meaning some of the things that we normally would do, some of those green sauce things in person, the hugs, the high fives, we're not going to be able to do that right now. So I want to encourage everybody that in the next couple of days or weeks, you're going to be firing up Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams meetings, or Google Meets, and you're going to be meeting your students for the first time. And I want to remind everyone that right now, more than ever, the green sauce matters. That extra something that gets our kids excited about coming to school. Right now, coming virtually to school, it matters. Kind of like my Pollo Bowl. Not the most flavorful by itself. It's not bad. It fills my stomach. It gives me the calories, the carbohydrates, and the protein I need, like our lessons. But it's the green sauce. It's the extra something that gives it the flavor, that gives it the kick, that makes me excited to eat it. We need that green sauce right now, and we need more. If normally I would choose a cup, if I would just have a couple cups of that green sauce on my Pollo Bowl, right now in a virtual environment, you may need 4 or 5 or 6 of those cups of green sauce, right? Whatever it is to make your students excited, the extra something, don't underestimate what it is. Maybe it's your love for a particular team. Don't be afraid to let them know something about you. Don't be afraid to tell those jokes each day. Don't be afraid to be crazy, stuff that has nothing to do with the curriculum, but what could get your kids out of bed, excited to run to their computer to spend some time with you, even if it's only virtually. So again, I cannot say enough how passionate I am about the power of the little things. In my book, Stories of Edu Influence, Chapter 8 is called The Power of the Little Things. If you'd like to hear more about that, if you go to my website, it's normally brentcoley.com. I'm having some trouble with the domain name right now. So if you go to brentcoley.weebly.com, and go to the blog post page and you find this El Pollo Loco blog post, at the bottom of that, you'll find a link to Chapter 8, the audible version of Chapter 8. If you've enjoyed listening to this and were encouraged, I hope you have been encouraged and you would like to hear some more stories on this subject of how powerful the little things can be, head on over to my website, brentcoley.weebly.com. Go to the blog page, and at the bottom of the El Pollo Loco chapter blog post, there's a link to Chapter 8 from my book, the audible version. So you can check that out. And I just want to thank everyone for listening. I hope you got something out of this as you embark on this new year. Let me be, I know, first of all, if you're stressed, and this is crazy, know that you're not alone. We are all in this together. We will get through this. You matter. All of the hard work that you're putting in right now, it's going to make a difference. Don't be afraid to sprinkle in. Nay, not sprinkle in. Don't be afraid to smother what you do in that something extra, in that green sauce, all right? Once again, you can find me on Twitter at Brent Coley. Find me on my website, brentcoley.weebly.com. Thank you again for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already done so in iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify. If you like what you hear, I'd love it if you drop a review. Again, that has nothing to do with ego or anything like that, but it does help get the word out for other people so that they can hopefully be encouraged as well. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful 2020 school year. And until next time, have a good one.